Hi everyone, how are you doing? Today channel Dan Sreyoun is going to present you about teaching methodology. What is a teaching methodology? A teaching methodology is essentially the way in which a teacher chooses to explain or teach material to students so they can learn the material. There are many different methodologies that can be utilized by a teacher, and the methods chosen often depend on the educational philosophy and preferences of a teacher. It is also not uncommon for a teacher to utilize multiple methods within a single lesson or over the course of several lessons. A methodology of teaching can include the use of lecturing, group or small group discussion activities, and engaging students as teachers for their peers. It is important to understand that a teaching methodology is not the same as an educational philosophy for a teacher, though they can often be related. The philosophy a teacher chooses usually indicates how the teacher believes students can best learn new material, and the ways in which students and teachers should relate and interact in the classroom. This philosophy often impacts the choices a teacher can make regarding which teaching methodology or methodologies he or she chooses to use, but they are not necessarily directly connected. Teachers commonly refer to their preferred teaching methods and philosophies together, to give other teachers or students an understanding of their approach to education. While a number of different methodologies can be used by a teacher, one common and traditional teaching method is often referred to as lecturing or explaining. This is essentially an approach to education that regards the teacher as an expert on a subject, and he or she provides information to students who are expected to absorb and understand the material. Sometimes derisively referred to as a sage on the stage approach, this teaching methodology has lost favor in recent years with many instructors. Even those teachers who do still use this method often supplement it with other methodologies. Some increasingly popular methodologies focus on the importance of the student in the learning process. One such teaching methodology utilizes group discussions with an entire classroom, or smaller group discussions with numerous small groups at once. Students are encouraged to take responsibility for their education and to be active participants in the learning process. This can also be utilized with a teaching methodology in which students take on the role of teacher to instruct other students in the class. Small group discussions, for example, are often followed by larger group discussions in which each group presents what they learned or discussed to the rest of the class. Similarly, individual students may be charged with researching a particular subject, and then teaching that material to the other students in the class. Hi everyone, how do I choose the best teaching materials? To choose the best teaching materials, you need to consider what age group you are teaching, what subject matter you are teaching, and what your personal teaching style is. Children of different ages respond very differently to the materials you use, so you want to make sure that you have supplies that are appropriate for the age of your class. Some teaching materials are for general use in a classroom, but there are also some that are helpful for specific topics or subject areas. Even when you have narrowed down your choices, there are still a lot of options for materials that you can use, and a big factor in which ones are best for you is personal preference. Think about the children you are going to teach and consider what is interesting to them. The best teaching materials are the ones that help you keep your students engaged, so it is important to make sure that you pick things that will be interesting to the children you teach. If you are trying to entertain preschoolers and use something that they can't yet understand, they will quickly lose interest. Likewise, if you use materials that are too simple with older children, they will likely become bored and stop paying attention. Having thematic teaching materials that coordinate with the subjects you are teaching can help you to more effectively get your message across to your students. If you teach only one subject, it should be easy to narrow down your options and find materials that feature your subject area. If you teach multiple subjects, try to find a few good selections for each subject that you teach and a few that work well for general classroom management as well. It might also be helpful to get materials such as posters or signs that you can quickly change as you change subjects. This can especially be helpful with younger students, as it gives them a visual cue that helps them understand the change in topic. Every teacher has his or her own personal teaching style, and the teaching materials you use should complement the way you like to work. Some people may feel more motivated and positive with lots of bright decorations in the classroom, while others like to have a simpler environment with just the basics. Think about how you like to work and what materials will help you be most effective in the way that you work and teach. Organization can also help you work more effectively in your classroom, so be sure to think about materials that will help you organize supplies, paperwork, or even your schedule and to-do lists. Hi everyone. What is a Socratic seminar? A Socratic seminar is a type of formal group discussion based on the learning and teaching methods employed by Socrates, an ancient Greek philosopher often credited with founding Western philosophy. While most classes are based on lectures intended to directly transmit information from teacher to student, a Socratic seminar is based more on inquiry and discussion. Socrates held the idea that it is more effective to help students think for themselves than it is to simply give them information. A Socratic seminar is, therefore, intended to be a discussion of a specific topic among all of those present rather than a situation in which one teacher gives information to students. In most cases, a Socratic seminar is focused on the discussion of a text, such as a book or essay. All participants in the seminar read the text beforehand and come to the seminar prepared to discuss their thoughts on the topic. Such seminars often take place in a classroom setting, so a teacher is often present to lead the discussion. This leadership, however, is not meant to be in the form of a lecture. The teacher's responsibility is only to guide the discussion to important topics and to ensure that those engaged in the discussion are being fair to each other. Some teachers give their students discussion questions before the seminar to help guide and focus the discussion. The purpose of a Socratic seminar is not simply to make sure that students understand the literal aspects of a given text. Many texts in literature and philosophy address highly complex issues that a simple understanding of the words on the page does not fully address. The texts used in this seminar are to be used only as a foundation for group discussion of the issues presented. Discussion of those issues, particularly when there is controversy, requires intensive reasoning and critical thinking skills. Frequent participation in such seminars greatly helps students develop reasoning skills that can be helpful in many different parts of one's life. Some topics, such as philosophy, sociology, and literature, are more compatible with the idea of a Socratic seminar than others, such as chemistry and mathematics. The sciences in particular require students to learn a great deal of information that could not easily be obtained through discussion. Many of the topics in the humanities, on the other hand, are based primarily in human reason and in elements of shared human experience. Accordingly, discussion among a group of people with different opinions and experiences can lead to very interesting and insightful views on the topics addressed. Hi everyone. What are the different types of teaching models? While there are many teaching models, some basic ones are direct instruction, lecture, cooperative learning, inquiry-based learning, seminar and project-based learning. Teaching models are methods of teaching or underlying philosophies that guide teaching methods. Effective teachers will integrate different teaching models and methods depending on the students that they are teaching and the needs and learning styles of those students. One model of teaching is referred to as direct instruction. In direct instruction, the teacher is the person in charge of presenting the lesson objectives and information to students through a lecture or by multimedia presentation. After presenting the material, the teacher will give students guided practice so that they can work with the teacher's help. Next, the teacher will give students independent practice of lesson objectives, which could be homework or an in-class activity. Finally, the teacher will test the students to see that they have mastered the lesson objectives. Another teaching method is the lecture, which is often used in college classrooms. In the lecture method, the educator verbally presents information and examples, sometimes along with a visual presentation. There is not necessarily much interaction with students. There also typically is not much emphasis on practice and putting the information to practical use except for when the student has to recite the information on a test. Cooperative learning is another method that is sometimes used. With this teaching model, the students work in a group setting where each member has a different task or role. All students have to work together to come up with the answer or to create the products or project that is required of them. Often, after all groups have finished, each group will be required to present its findings in front of the other groups and the teacher. This method works well in all subject areas. Inquiry-based learning is a teaching model that works especially well in mathematics and science classes. In inquiry-based learning, the teacher presents a problem or a puzzle that the students must solve based on the prior information that they have learned. In this method, which can be used with individual students or with students working in groups, learners create a hypothesis using the data they have been given. Then they collect relevant information and draw their conclusions, which they might present to the class. This method of teaching presents learners with authentic and engaging tasks that are highly motivating. One other method of teaching is referred to as Socratic inquiry, or the seminar method. After students have all read a common text, the teacher then uses questions to get students to analyze, evaluate and synthesize the material as well as their own beliefs and thoughts related to it. Teaching models such as this one are based on higher-level thinking questions, which are used to stimulate student thinking. The teacher does not act as the primary presenter of material, although he or she asks questions and gets students to back up their answers. Students can ask each other clarifying questions as well in the seminar method. Hi everyone. What is interdisciplinary teaching? Interdisciplinary teaching is a method of instruction that incorporates material from more than one discipline. It involves the integration or synthesis of information from multiple disciplines to provide insights, answers, or ideas that could not be achieved by focusing on only one discipline. Interdisciplinary teaching can and does occur at all levels of education, from primary school through graduate school. The multiple disciplines involved in interdisciplinary teaching can be integrated through a common theme, problem to solve, issue, topic, or process. The key is that a higher level of learning takes place because of the synthesis of knowledge from more than one discipline. Interdisciplinary teaching can be achieved by a single teacher drawing from multiple disciplines or through the coordination of more than one teacher in a process known as team teaching. Interdisciplinary teaching must be distinguished from multidisciplinary, transdisciplinary, and cross-disciplinary teaching. Where interdisciplinary teaching hopes to generate ideas and understandings that are more comprehensive than a single discipline alone generates, multidisciplinary teaching simply hopes to bring more than one perspective to an issue, problem, or idea. In that way, multidisciplinary teaching is additive while interdisciplinary teaching is integrative. Transdisciplinary teaching provides holistic concepts intended to go beyond disciplinary distinctions, studying the dynamics of whole systems. Marxism, world systems theory, and structuralism are a few examples of transdisciplinary approaches. Cross-disciplinary teaching examines one discipline from the perspective of another, for example, the history of science. In cross-disciplinary teaching, there is not the same level of integration or synthesis of ideas as would be found in interdisciplinary teaching. There are many advantages associated with interdisciplinary teaching, because students learn to integrate information from different perspectives to form a more sophisticated understanding. Experts suggest that interdisciplinary teaching increases student motivation and improves learning. During interdisciplinary teaching, students learn to apply, transfer, and integrate the information more effectively than in classes that follow disciplinary lines rigidly. That being said, experts in the field warn of potential problems, including developing a course with units that sample discipline-specific knowledge without any real integration of coursework among the disciplines. Another problem is that not all teachers are cut out to be interdisciplinary instructors. Some teachers may feel defensive when the ideas expressed are supported by their own discipline or challenged by another, leading to conflict or disagreement. Both problems can be overcome by careful course and activity design and the incorporation of both discipline-specific and interdisciplinary activities for students. Picking teachers who are open to new ideas and debate also can be critical. Hi everyone. How do I become a geography teacher? In order to become a geography teacher, you will need to have an in-depth knowledge of world, regional, and local geography as well as have superior map reading skills. Most geography classes cover related areas such as history and current events, as well. An undergraduate degree is generally required, but a postgraduate degree might be desirable. Student teaching experience and state certification are also required of anyone who wants to work as a geography teacher. The first step in becoming a geography teacher is to fulfill the teaching requirements for the region or state in which you are looking for employment. Typically, an undergraduate degree is required to be considered for a teaching position. The best degrees to have are in teaching, geography, or a combination of the two, but it is possible to become a geography teacher with other degrees, as well. If you do not have an educational background in geography and history, it can be a good idea to take some classes before applying for a teaching position. Student teaching can help you amass teaching experience before landing a full-time teaching position. Typically, student teaching is completed as part of an undergraduate or master's program that includes a teaching component. If you have not completed student teaching, it generally is recommended that you take teaching classes or attend teaching seminars where you can gain knowledge in lesson planning and teaching methodologies. Many places require certifications or postgraduate degrees in order to become a geography teacher. It is important to find out what qualifications are necessary to teach in a certain region before you apply for jobs. To teach at the university level, a doctorate degree (PhD) may also be necessary. Once you have met all of the qualifications to become a geography teacher, you can begin looking for positions in local classified ads or in teaching publications that have such advertisements. Some colleges have placement offices that might be able to help you find open positions. You also might inquire with local school boards about openings. When interviewing for a geography teaching position, it can be important for you to promote both your geography and teaching skills. Highlight courses and projects completed and any relevant job experience or training. Be sure to demonstrate enthusiasm both for the subject matter and the prospective students. Hi everyone, how do I become a kindergarten teacher? The requirements to become a kindergarten teacher can vary tremendously. In the US and Canada, most public schools will not consider hiring people unless they are credentialed and have completed a bachelor's degree in education or early childhood education. Each state and province in Canada and the US can have different requirements too, and the length of time it takes to get appropriate training and licensing is usually between 4 to 5 years of full-time schoolwork. Sometimes schools offer a single program that will allow credentialing at its termination, and other times, students get their bachelor's degree and then participate in a separate credentialing program. In certain states, there may be different levels of credentials, which might affect pay. A few schools with very rigid standards may only consider job applicants who have a master's degree in early childhood education or elementary education. On the other hand, some schools are not as excited about hiring a teacher who possesses a master's degree because this will mean they will have to pay that teacher more money, as is usually determined by local or state teachers' unions. The matter changes completely if a person wants to become a kindergarten teacher at a private school. Each private school has its own standards on degree of education needed for hiring. Some schools hire only credentialed teachers, and others may find a kindergarten teacher without a college degree completely acceptable. Schools with very specific teaching methodology, like Waldorf schools, might ask teachers to undergo Waldorf training before employing them. Usually, if people want to maximize employment opportunities, their best chances are to pursue a credential in their home state or province. Check with the local or state board of education to determine credential requirements and make sure to attend a school that is accredited. There have been quite a few changes to the requirements in kindergarten. People of the last few generations may remember kindergarten as a place where things were explored and there was little focus on academic learning. In many countries, this has shifted, and children may need to achieve academic mastery of certain subjects prior to proceeding to first grade. Typical requirements may now include making certain kids can read or at least can recognize and write all letters, and they may need to know some basic math skills and especially be able to read and write numbers up to 20 or 100. Other important skills a kindergarten teacher will impart to kindergarteners include learning how to focus and pay attention, be respectful of others, and how to behave in acceptable ways in an organized class settings. Some kindergarten classes also last longer than they used to. Many states now have full-day kindergartens, which means the kindergarten teacher may work for longer hours per day. It's often said that it takes a very special person to be a kindergarten teacher, but really all teachers are special. However, kindergarten teachers may need a high degree of patience and they may have the most diverse students, those who already reading and have spent a few years in preschool, and those who have not spent any time in organized learning environments. There are usually no tests submitted to kids entering kindergarten, as there may be for passage onto another grade. Even the age group can be quite different, with some kindergarteners starting when they are not yet 5, and others not beginning until they are 6. These vast student differences can make for interesting times in a classroom as a teacher begins to implement the standards that all of these students must learn to get to first grade. In addition to education, it's clearly a very good idea to determine that kindergarten is the right place for a teacher. Those who do not love a bit of chaos and major differences in students are probably better suited to other grades or to another profession. It makes sense to take some time to work in a kindergarten classroom as a teacher volunteer to determine if this is the best place. Most local schools will jump at the opportunity to have a helper in class, and many kindergarten teachers are quite generous in imparting the wisdom they've acquired in their profession. This investigation can start early, and people in high school or the first few years of college are encouraged to volunteer and find out if becoming a kindergarten teacher is the right choice. Thank you for watching my videos. Please subscribe, like and share to channel Dan Sreyoun in order to get more videos. Thank you.